All right, welcome back to another Maintenance Monday. This week we're talking about power cords and everything that has to do with RV power and how it works. Failure points, the history behind it, and kind of where they've morphed from where they started in the 1920s. Little tip, hint there. What we're going to talk about, history. And we'll move on to how to connect to your RV appropriately. We're not going to talk about power posts and power poles today, where that's going to be in another Maintenance Monday post about how to test receptacles and how to hook up to those. All right, so let's go look at some power cords. Okay, so talking about power cords. This is, and we're not going to talk about the basic ones like we talk, a regular 3-prong, 110 volt, 20 amp. No, we're going to talk about the big stuff, the stuff that actually runs your RV. Okay, so this is a 30 amp plug. This is the prong end that actually attaches to the pole that you would gain power from, and this attaches to your coach. Okay, this is the prong side, this is the twist lock side. And how the twist lock works is you can see there's a little L-shaped lug right there. Okay, this on the 30 amp is your ground. This is where your ground is, and when they built them, they were built to handle machinery in factories and areas like that. What they would do is they would stick this up into the panel and it would just hang there. Through gravity, it would hang. So they would push it in, twist it, and it would lock, hence the name twist lock. And it would just sit there. Until they were done needing of power, they would untwist it, unlock it, and pull it out. They started using these same receptacles in RVs. And when they used them in the RVs, now, instead of them being this way and using gravity to hold it in and using its natural locking mechanism, now what they've done is they've turned them this way. And so now it goes into the side of the coach sideways, it twists and locks. The problem is when the prongs wear out, things start to get loose. And the weight from the cord and the people pulling on it, kids running over it, jumping on it, whatever, just having general sitting there, it wants to pull down, it wants to pull the receptacle like this, the connection. Now you can imagine this is a 30 amp, okay? That's a 50. You can see there's a sizable difference. This is a lot heavier. You shove this into the receptacle in the side of your coach, now you have this big wire just pulling down and really weighing down on that receptacle. So this is old technology. It was grandfathered in to use on RVs and continue to use them on RVs. The problem is that they didn't really change the design much. The only thing they did was add this plastic ring, which is supposed to retain it if it somehow gets unlocked and pulled out. It's supposed to keep it from backing out. The problem is with the connection that is made in a 30 amp, you can lose your ground. If you lose your ground, again, that's your ground lug, the one that's the shape of an L. If you lose your ground lug, this is your dedicated ground. This is what grounds your entire coach to the shore power post. If you lose your ground, now the power has to find somewhere else to ground itself. So it will go straight to your frame usually, because your frame is grounded to the batteries are grounded to your rest of your coach, and your 120 volt power is grounded to all of that. So it needs a dedicated ground. So it's going to find a ground somewhere. When this wears out, which it does, and you start to lose that ground connection, you then will get what they consider a hot skin, where you may feel a tingle or a shock if you are stepping from the ground in bare feet, and maybe you've just come from the pool and you step up from the ground, 1 foot on the ground, 1 foot on the step, and you get zapped. Not good. You can see how the prongs are bent and melted around here. That plug end is toast. I would, and forget that, what about this? That's going to allow water in. That's going to allow moisture. That's going to allow a pinch point where a wire could get pinched or caught, and now it starts to arc out. So what I would do is I'd get a universal head, cut this off, and wire in a new one. Camco sells them. They're real cheap. They're like 30, 40 bucks. Okay, 50 amp. Let's talk about what the 50 amp looks like. We already talked about 30. It has 3 prongs that goes into the shore power, and then 3 inlets or connections through your coach. This is a 50 amp, okay? So, got your ground. This is your neutral. And then each one of these would be a hot lead. Okay, so you would have 120 volts, 50 amps coming in on this leg and this leg split. Now it's not 240 volts, 50 amps. It's a big difference. We're not talking about double the voltage and amperage. We're talking about individual legs, okay? Okay, there's a couple subtle differences. The 30 amp has 1 L shape. And if you notice this has 2. Okay? The 30 amp has its L shape on its plug is the dedicated ground. This one, the L shapes are your hot leads. The straight is your neutral. Your ground is on the side. And that's where your plug grounds out at. This neutral lug is what ends up happening is it starts to get loose, it starts to break contact, and as the plug starts to pull, it starts to break contact or twist that neutral contact. The neutral keeps these two parties neutral, if you can think about it in the most easiest terms. 120 volts, 120 volts. This keeps the neutral party, keeps them in their zone. If you break that neutral or you have poor contact, now this guy over here might say, I don't need that much electricity and I want to share it with this guy. So instead of 120 volts over here, you might have 160 volts. You might have 180 volts. You might have 200 volts. Or it may short completely across one another and you could have a full 240 volts shed right to your coach. High-end electronics, a lot of these big motor coaches today, even some of the travel trailers and fifth wheels have high-end electronics. They are very susceptible to voltage drifting, so they need to stay within the parameters. If you go too high, you short things out. You go too low, you start burning up air conditioner circuitry and your compressor. They say the danger zone for a compressor is about give or take 90 volts. You don't want to be going that low. Air conditioning compressors like high voltage. They actually love it. But you're really susceptible to damage to high-end sensitive electronics. That would be your TVs. That would be radios. That would be, if you have a Firefly system in your motor coach, that is going to get fried quickly. So keep that in mind. Circumnavigate some of that old technology with something a little bit new, okay? It's still a twist lock, but it's what they call a 90-degree twist lock to twist lock. This plugs into the side of your coach just like the other plug does. And then instead of it having this cord hanging out here and weighing down on that plug, it hangs pretty much straight near the coach. Then your other end of your cord plugs into here. Again, it's also a twist lock to twist lock, and then you would lock the plastic ring to there, and it is a much, much better option. Again, they sell them for the 50 and the 30 amp. They're through Camco. I used this for a long, long time, and I loved this setup. It works really well. Okay, so let's go talk about some other different options actually at an RV. Okay, so we're outside now at my RV, and I've actually upgraded and made an upgrade to my plug. Remember, I used to have this. This was the 90-degree twist lock to twist lock dog bone. And again, it would go into the side of the coach like this, and you can see how it doesn't want want to hang like the other one did, where you can see where it would be bowing, okay, and pulling down. That much line is pulling down on the side of your RV. So with this, we just get rid of this, and we went to this, and this is what they call the smart plug. I really like this. I was debating on whether I was going to spend the money. These are pricey. They're not cheap. The dog bone is a cost-effective way of fixing the issue of the plug and everything connection issues. I used it for a lot of years. I've been RVing in this RV since 2015, and I've had that dog bone pretty much since 2015. And it's worked. It did exactly what I needed it to do. However, I started to still see fatigue on my outlet, on my plugs, and on the actual connection points. And the reason I saw a lot of fatigue on there was, again, because it's a twist lock. It pushes in, it twists and locks. And every time you're twisting and locking, it's further doing damage to the plug, regardless. So I switched over to Smart Plug, and this is, again, not a cheap option. This is about $250 to $300 for the complete kit. Comes with the end, comes with the plug, and you can get it in white, black, or stainless steel, which is, these are plastic, but you can get them in the black plastic, white plastic, or stainless, actual stainless metal. So it's got these two locks on the outside. You can see they're really heavy duty stainless steel. It has a seal inside. They say and claim that this is 20 times stronger than the standard twist lock. The cool part about it is I don't have to twist anything. I don't have to do anything. All I do is push it in and I'm done. Flip the top closed and that's it. And I forget about it. The nice part about this whole thing is that even though it's pulling down, it's not really, it's a positive lock on the actual setup. Very easy to do. When you buy the kit, you can buy it in both 30 and 50 amp setup. And that 30 and 50 amp is real easy. Just follow the instructions. Anybody can do it. And it's really, really simple. Other options, you can find them out there. They're everywhere. Everybody's got a gimmick. Everybody's got something. But what works best for you to make sure that you're safe when you're RVing, you always want to inspect your cords. Inspect to make sure that everything is good. It's not fraying, the coatings aren't twisting, the plugs aren't melted and mangled. You know, take care of that. Think about this. You're working with 120 volts, either 30 or 50 amps coming into your coach, and it's dangerous. You know, you have your family, your dogs, your loved ones coming in and out of the coach all the time. You really want to make sure that everything you do is going to be safe. Okay, so thank you for joining me for another Maintenance Monday. We hope you guys all enjoy the summer and the warm weather and the camping, and as always, enjoy the journey.